first question that I would ask you is like, of all the things, like mastery is your world. Your podcast is called Finding Mastery. Like this is what you obsess about and think about and practice and teach. Why is it this kind of subject terrain that's providing the on-ramp to your very first book? Like you could have picked a lot of ways to communicate your ideas around mastery, but you're focused on this very singular concept as kind of an introduction to your world and how you think about high performance.
I love the question because I think a lot of people are quietly asking themselves, Gervais, why'd you write a book on this? And I appreciate that you're actually asking it. Many people have not asked this question.
It seems like the obvious first question.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, yeah, good. So I'll tell you the reason being, because I think it is the greatest constrictor of one's potential. I think this obsessive, private worry about what somebody else is thinking about me is the great, unnamed, unexamined constrictor of potential. And it is like David Foster Wallace shared in his poem. There's three fish. There's an old fish swimming one way and two young fish swimming the other way. And the old fish, as he passes by, says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two young fish swim on. And then one brave of the young fish says to the other, "The hell is water?" And I think that's what is happening. It's like this navigation of, am I being accepted by others? Am I being rejected by others? Is the water that we are swimming in. It is so foundational to safety and survival that we've almost forgot to label it. We've got the fight, flight, freeze mechanism to ready us without even having to think from a warring tribe, from a wildebeest, from a saber-toothed tiger, from whatever is perceived to be dangerous. We don't even have to think and our body readies. And that's because our brain is optimized for survival. Belonging is safety. Belonging is survival. So there's this other general thing that's taking place in our brain, the 3.2 pounds of tissue, that it's scanning the world for things that are dangerous and trying to figure out how to be okay. And one of the great dangers, the near-death sentence, is if you and I are in a tribe. Let's go back 200,000 years ago. And Rich and Mike are doing their thing. And let's say that, I don't know, you sharpen the arrows and I got the bows just right. And each time we go hunting, we come back and arrows are broken and we miss our target and the tribe is hungry. And let's say another time we're out gathering and I'm coming back with rotten whatever and like you're off, doing something else in your ADD moment and you don't come back with the right berries either. Over time, underperformance has led to rejection. And once we're kicked out of the tribe, that rejection is a near-death sentence because you and I can't forage and fend and fight and hunt and gather, just the two of us, or maybe our spouses, maybe like 3 kids and maybe a cousin and an uncle. It's too much. So safety is part of belonging. And so what ends up happening, we've got this general mechanism in our brain to take the temperature of other people, to make sure that we're okay in their eyes. Well, that getting kicked out of the tribe now is no longer a death sentence or near death sentence. It just doesn't feel good. So, but we still have the mechanism to tune, to see if we're okay in the eyes of other people because we are petrified to be rejected. And that's what's happening. And I was 16 years old. I saved up enough money to buy my first car. There's a Mazda B2000 pickup truck. I could throw my surfboard in the back and I felt great about it. I mean, it was like a $2,000 truck. And there was a car driving and they were on my left-hand side. They were going in the same direction. They were going to pass me. And I remember sitting up, grabbing the steering wheel like a cool kid would, and thinking to myself, they're going to see how cool I am in my new car. Like, I'm going to show up right in this moment. So as they're passing me, I look to the left and they didn't care. They didn't even look. They had no clue that I existed. I did not matter at all to them. And I had this lightning bulb moment. What am I doing with my life? I'm a 16-year-old kid and I'm having this existential moment like, this is embarrassing. I just did all of this performance to be looked at by somebody favorably that I didn't even know. What is that? And I was so embarrassed by it. I didn't talk about it. I just kept it private. And I knew that I was doing it throughout my life. And I was so embarrassed that I was playing a secondary game. And socially, I was fine. I could fit in a lot of places. And It helps when dad's an alcoholic and mom's codependent, and you got to figure out how to navigate.
There's an interesting brew that creates a psychologist.
Right. Yeah. And so you figure out how to tune to others, but I was doing it a lot. And then come to sit with Best in the World. And they talk about like not letting others down, not wanting to blow it, not wanting to da-da-da-da. And there's all this narrative about how important the opinions of others is to their life and well-being and sense of self. So I wrote an article, and the article was on HBR 12 months later, and it was on this, like this number one constrictor, this obsessiveness about how you're perceived by others. And they called me 12 months after and they said, you're the number one downloaded article.
Oh, wow.
So you hit a nerve.
I read it. It's great.
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't look at the date on it. I was just assuming that came out after the book as part of like getting the book out into the world.
That happened
was well before.
Like 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So they called and they said, let's write a book. And I was like, man, I'm wrestling alligators right now. Like life is hard. I do not have that bandwidth to do it. And they said, no problem. Let's come back around. And I was like, thank you. They called 12 months later and they said, it was number one downloaded again. Like there's a real nerve here. So I felt like I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone with this obsessive worry that kept me safe but small, that kept me playing this second game that didn't have a sense of freedom in it. And I had shed a lot of it because I'd worked at it a long time. I still have some of it. I'm not free from it completely. Like I'm not the enlightened one here. That's you.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So
don't play that game with me. I know what you're doing.
I'm still working at it. And come to find out I'm not alone. Just naming it is healthy for people.